Um, I came to London at the beginning of the European Union, and I studied drama and German. Um, and in the beginning of my career, I wanted to be an actor, and so I did a fair bit of acting, but I was very self-conscious, and then I got a stipendium to Berlin and worked at the Berliner Ensemble as a assistant director. And then I decided that I really liked directing. And at the minute I came back to the university in London, I was asked to direct a play, a German play, and it was all still in my student years. And that went really well, and I really enjoyed that. And so that's sort of how my directing career began. I didn't really choose it in that sort of sense. It chose me more than anything else, and I'd never really thought about directing abroad as a career or as a thing I wanted to do. And but I said yes because it was the first time that I would have an actual show, and I would have money to do what I wanted to do. And I remember, and I often sort of say this, at the minute my first job was in Slovakia, where I directed Patrick Marber's Closer. And I remember sort of thinking at the minute that the plane touched the ground, that I was thinking, how am I going to direct in a play in a language I have never spoken before? And I hadn't really considered what that would be like. I had just literally only thought about what I wanted to do with the play, how I wanted to do it, how I would like it designed, but I hadn't really thought about what it would be like working with actors in a foreign language. But then I soon found out that for me anyway, I don't really direct the words an actor speak, but it's about how a person feels or how a person acts the words they speak. And so it was more about talking around everything they did rather than about sort of telling them, oh, this is how you say it. And so and that production was very successful. It sort of I can't remember, but it had it like something ridiculous as like 15 nominations, and it whatever it won 9 or 10 prizes, and so I then was convinced about what it was that I wanted to do, and since then I've been directing plays in many different countries. I don't know how many countries I've been in, but so I started in Slovakia, I went to Bosnia, I went to Slovenia, I went to Czech Republic, I went to Russia, came to Latvia, I went to China, I went to Azerbaijan, I went to America. Been all over the world directing. Been very lucky in that sort of respect. Never made me rich, but I been able to work with incredibly interesting people, and with people who I normally wouldn't have been in contact if I would stayed in the small village I'm originally from in the Netherlands. So next to my career in professional theatre, I've always been interested in community. I guess I have been particularly interested in the community because of the work I did abroad, and I felt maybe that I wasn't really part of a community. Maybe because I was already a foreigner in London, and in that sort of sense, an outsider in where in a country which isn't originally mine. And then I worked a lot abroad and never really had a career in England as such. I work with English artists. Maybe there was a heartfelt desire to sort of have a sense of community in my own life. And so every single time when I wasn't working abroad, I started, being interested in my local community, and I think that first started off working with people who are, old age pensioners, and I was creating stories with people who are over 80 in my local community, and we made a book of all the stories of these people from East London, which was a great project, and then I also realized, how important it was for people to have a sense of community and to be part of something. And more than anything else, how important it was for people to sort of share their stories, and and also for myself, how important it was to sort of have a sense of belonging and knowing, how great it is that you are part of something, but also that you can share your stories, and how in sharing your stories, you give basically other people strength, and it's such a great experience. And I realized more and more how important it was to have access to the community around me and to work with the community around me. And so I now very much combine the two things. It's like my work in the professional theatre and the work I do in communities, and I actively seek it. I did a project for the British Council in Nigeria, where I worked with a theatre company called Crown Troupe of Africa, and they work particularly with underprivileged children in Lagos. So Lagos itself is already quite poor, but then I worked in an area called Bariga, where people are extremely poor, but then there is this theatre company who does this great work and gives these people an opportunity to sort of get together every day. They supply the food. They don't make much money, but at least they have a place to go where they can work together, where they can eat. And this theatre company gave me such a great example, how important theatre can be for their local communities. Because of the heat, they arrive every morning at 5 o'clock to start rehearsing, and they are, at 8 o'clock they are literally sweating buckets, because they are, they're so incredibly active and they're doing such great stuff, that I find it incredibly important to work with communities, but I still very much like also to work within in the professional theatre. And so I've been coming to Latvia for the last 13 or 14 years, and I've done The Pillow Man, Amadeus, Gone with the Wind, Pinocchio at the Puppet Theatre, Zelda Port at Leerpaaien, and Slasda in the small hall, and Cooking with Elvis at the main hall. And this year I will be directing Dangerous Liaisons back at the Dialis Theatre. But I haven't really been traveling very much outside of Riga, apart from Leerpaaien, until I did this particular job, like working with communities, where we traveled around Latvia and we did work. Latvia has been been incredibly kind to me, and and it's like in the same way as I said earlier that working with communities, I learned so much. I learned so much about sharing and about how healing and how transformative a theater can be. And so when I was asked to do this project about talking to communities in Latvia as part of this of the Latvian centenary program, I was really proud that I could sort of share some of my experiences with the people, and I believe that it is really important to do this work. I it's great that we can do plays like Amadeus or Dangerous Liaisons, and they're great text, and it is great to be allowed to work with people like Artus Krastins and Regia and Juris Jaggers and whoever. But it is also great to be able to sort of work in the communities and to sort of see what an amazing stories there are in Latvia, and to celebrate the Latvian culture from within, and that is and to make this part of the centenary program seems to make a lot of sense to me. As like if you're really celebrating Latvia, then you have to celebrate the Latvian communities, and I guess that happens and it's great when you can do that through theater, which I think, and I always sort of say this, I believe that theater is a mirror of our own souls, and to be able to sort of bring the stories of the local communities onto the stage, so that the local communities are reflected onto our souls is a great thing. And I also always sort of say I believe that we are all one, and to hear these different aspects rather than just potentially these world-class literatures, but also to hear these individual stories of these individual peoples from your own country is an amazing concept. And if we don't have experience outside of the communities we live in, we will stick to what we are familiar with. So it is good that at times people come in from the outside, whether that is people like myself who are who are foreigners and who have experience working in foreign countries, or whether it is people who have done a lot of work in Riga and who are able to sort of share what they have learned here. But the other way around too, that the work what is done in the communities, to sort of share that back with the people like myself, so that we can so that theater really can be this place where we exchange information, and where it is not just me holding up a mirror to the people I work with, but it is also the people who I work with holding up a mirror to me, and that's so that we're all are able to look in each other's souls, and ultimately in our own soul, like I sort of say, like truly believing that we are all one, and that when you share your side with me, I'll see a new side of myself I wasn't able to see for myself until you told me. And that's it's such a gift to be able to do that, and to be able to do that as part of a centenary where we are celebrating oneness and a unity of Latvia. Seems to make a lot of sense. How one is Latvia if we are not sharing all the stories that are available to us from Latvia itself. Because all these communities have a story to share, and that is the beauty of that, to be able to access this is amazing. So we heard in this last trip where we went to Kurzeme, Viseme and Latgala, where we heard so many different stories, and it's not only about local stories or mythological stories or from existing stories, but also from hearing from very interesting communities within these communities, and that we have access to these communities, and to be able to sort of make work with that is just will enrich our lives into such a great way. And it's like, and I think what I think everybody who is always involved in these workshops find, that when you get together and when you talk, you sort of see how rich these communities are and how many stories they have to share. And I just just wanted to sort of reiterate that one more time. It's like that there are so many communities. There's our older community. There's our our youngsters. There was Serava. In Serava there were young people who don't really have much to do, and they so what can we offer them, and are we listening to them? What are their stories? How can we make these local communities, where in Latvia often they empty out, how can we make that exciting? And how can we, and I think we can make them exciting by showing that we care, and that we like to hear what is going on there, and we like to listen to the people who live there, so that we show an interest in these stories. And I think it's the same everywhere in the world, that sometimes I think communities don't feel listened and heard by. And I think that's even comes back to our families. I think, if you really want to show people that you love them, then you need to let them know that you listen to them, and that you hear what they have to say. And I think if we think about that with regards to a responsibility of a country, we also really have to listen and hear what our local communities are saying. And this doesn't apply just to Latvia, but it applies to everywhere in the world. But I guess it is particularly relevant to Latvia right now, in a time where it celebrates its identity and its community, to make sure that we listen and hear the stories of all the identities that live within Latvia. I think it's it's really important to sort of think about, when you think about listening to your communities and working with your communities, that it is not about trying to create the best work ever, but it is about allowing the process to value the work you're doing. So don't measure the result of a production, but measure the process of the work itself. And that's so that people who normally do not have a voice suddenly have a voice, or that people are not normally seen on stage are suddenly seen. And it's just I think we worked with so many projects where it is potentially even interesting to bring people from Kurzeme together with people from Latgala, because they have a shared interest, and where people can share their different stories in different communities, so that people know that also within Latvia they're not alone. And it is we have such a rich opportunity to care about process instead of caring about result. And I think sometimes that is a shame when, for example, in this country the amateur theatre measures how well a production has done, whereas in essence the real work is done in the process. And I think it's something what the community theatre can celebrate far more and far better than, for example, the professional theatre. The fact that people are participating in community theatre is so much more important than in the professional theater. In professional theater, you know, we often, I'm afraid to say, have to work for a result because people are buying tickets. So we have to create work that is amazing, but the work, doing the work, is often what is amazing within community theatre. Still, I would love to come back and work with some local communities, or help develop some of the amazing ideas I've heard on the workshop. So I hope that there will be an opportunity to do exactly that. I will be back later in the year to direct Dangerous Liaisons, which I really look forward to. But I definitely also look forward to coming back and to sort of see, you know, how I can be of service to the different projects that have come out of these workshops.